Hey folks, Tony Jones here from Rebel Financial. So thanks for tuning in again today. We thought we'd do something a little different today. As a certified financial planner and a registered investment advisor, I have to adhere to some regulations and rules and things like that. I often see on the internet advice that's not the best. Let me say that in the nicest way. And it's usually coming from people that aren't licensed the same way I am. So sometimes they're somewhat licensed, but not always. So what we thought we would do is take some clips today that we've seen on TikTok, and as I go through them, just make some comments on them. So I have my earbuds here so I can listen to the clip. So let's go. I think we have about 4 clips, maybe 5 that I'm going to look at here, and I'll stop if there's more than one thing to say about them. So let's get started here.
What's up?
Hey, what are 3 financial advices that all Americans should know that school didn't teach us?
Ooh, I like this. Let's get started. First, always get a 30-year mortgage. That will create cash flow. With cash flow, you can then go compound, and through compounding, you can make millions of dollars. Second,
okay, so anytime you hear the word always or never, it's probably worth taking a look again, although sometimes I do say never, but I don't ever say always. So 30-year mortgages are not for everybody. The reason this advice is more common these days is because interest rates are at historic lows. So in theory, if you were to take, a 3-year loan from the government to pay, use for your mortgage, and you put that in the stock market or in the product that he's going to talk about later, you can, of course, average a much higher return. But there are other problems that might be associated with that. So in thought, qualitatively, the math usually will work out for you, but not always. And I think that's where you need to be careful. But as you get older, especially to retirement, there certainly are other considerations. So certainly never say always to doing this. But as you're going to see, some of his advice, or in this case, all of his advice, is leading you to his product.
401ks, Roth IRAs, terrible retirement plans. They can be good investments, just bad retirement plans, like trying to take a Tesla car off-road.
Well, a 401k isn't an investment. It's an account that you put money into, possibly get a match, and then from there, you buy investments in there. So in a YouTube video he did, he said it was good, and he said it was even, and then under the word good, he had it listed, but then referred to it as bad. And then later said, well, if you get a match, it's okay or it's good. So he uses a lot of different terminology for it. But usually 401ks can be a good vehicle to save for retirement. Some 401ks are not that great, but for the most part, it's worth taking a look at them, not just discarding them like he would say. But if he didn't want you buying his product, he may want you putting into 401k. So let's take a look at his product.
Just doesn't work that way. And third, MPI secure compound interest accounts, totally kick butt.
So if I wanted to get more information, where would I?
MPI secured interest account. So it's maximum premium indexing. Something, if you have an interest, you really want to look into because it's based on, or at least it's common with, has some commonality with an indexed universal life policy. I am not an insurance salesperson, so I don't have skin in the game, but there's a lot of verbiage. You will never completely understand what this product is or how it works. Whenever I have clients that have these that were sold, the greatest things since sliced bread, they become very unhappy because it is nowhere near what they thought it was going to be. So keep that in mind. So I do have another MPI salesman, I think, down the road here. So let's jump into another video here.
This is Tony Robbins' famous quote. And he said, if you're 18 years old and you invest $300 a month for 8 years, and then at 8 years, you no longer invest again, you'll be financially free by the time you retire. You have $1.8 million. People are like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, at 8 years, you would have invested $28,800. And if it was invested in the stock market, which has earned about 10% each year for the last 30 years, and because of compound interest at retirement age, which is mid 60s, you'd have $1.8 million. It's psycho.
So, Mickey Taylor here, or Mikey Taylor, compound interest. Anytime I hear the word compounding interest, I get interested in that. He does a good job here. Keeping things simple, putting so much money away per month The earlier you get started doing this, the more the money compounds. Now, if you do compound interest on TikTok, you will see other videos of people explaining it, how money multiplies, and learn that the more time you have in the stock market, the better off you're going to be, because then over long term, historically, the stock market has had good returns. And if you participate in it for a long period of time, you usually capture that average. But not over 5, 10, or sometimes even over 20 years. It doesn't always work out. But over the long term, it does. So follow this advice when you hear people talking about compounding, because it goes a long way.
If you're struggling to find out the best way to manage your money, then use a 50-30-20 budgeting rule. This means 50% of your spending goes to needs like housing, food, and so on. 30% goes to wants like new clothes or a PS5, and 20% goes to savings. And you can always...
Okay, this is good advice. This has been around in the industry for a little bit, but you have to understand that most people come from a place of just not being good with money. And especially in the near term, in the present, because they're always thinking they're going to make adjustments or do things in the future. But ultimately, what I want people to get used to as I talk to them is try to get to that 20% savings mark. So if today you're at 3 or 4%, just incrementally, but do it quickly, because that's going to take you too many years. Just steadily every year. If you get a raise for 3% raise, put that into savings. If you could cut out an expense, you make your last payment on a vehicle, put that into savings. So great lecture here on the 50-30-20 rule. It has been around for a long time. But ultimately, if you could get to that 20% savings, you're going to be in much better shape for retirement.
Never do a 15-year mortgage and never pay a dime more.
Okay, so we start never ever do a 15-year mortgage. We're about to hear about MPI as well. But again, there are many valid reasons why you want to pay your mortgage off as fast as possible. Many advisors would tell you never to do it. Some would say do it every time, like Dave Ramsey, for instance. But the reality is it is a case-by-case basis, and it depends on where you are in life, what you intend on doing with that property and such. And so there's a lot of reasons why you would want to pay it off sooner rather than later. So, but let's see if he has anything more to say.
Towards your 30-year mortgage. It doesn't make sense, and you sacrifice hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in your lifetime. I've got the math to prove it.
Yeah, the math may work out in his favor, but the reality is it's not going to be that way every time. And whenever somebody says, oh, you're going to make 8, 10, 6% a year, it doesn't matter. It's not going up like this. There's a lot of risk that when you go into debt to make money, that it's going to turn out to be the opposite of positive. And that is you're going to lose money if the stock market goes down for a few years, even in MPI, in which case then you've got, this debt that you don't want in the first place. It turns out to be a losing venture.
Check it out. So for a $400,000 home, a 15-year mortgage is going to cost you around $3,000. A 30-year mortgage is going to cost you around $2,100. But we're going to take this extra $900 that we would have put towards our 15-year mortgage and put it into MPI.
Boom, put it in MPI. That'll solve everything. So, and that is a joke. So look into MPI, which again is what maximum premium indexing. It's a newer product starting by the first guy we talked about, Curtis Ray. But really take a deep look into it before you decide to make a commitment to it, okay? Because it is a newer product and it is based on insurance, and those usually don't work out for investing. You want to try to keep your investing and your investing and your insurance separate. So one more here, and we call it a day.
You can use them as a tax write-off. You mean this guy? How do I do that? Yep, if you can prove to the IRS that keeping your dog on work premises is ordinary and necessary. I haven't had...
Okay, so unless you own like a junkyard or something, you don't want to have to try to prove to the IRS that your golden doodle or whatever dog that is a necessary expense that's going to keep intruders away. And that's pretty much a general rule. Don't think that you've come up with some great idea and you're going to write it off and you're easily going to win with the IRS. It is not worth the fight that you might run into. So, and again, it's not just about the dog. This just happens to be the example. But you should really think long and hard if you think you're going to come up with some innovative idea on how to save a few bucks on taxes. Just don't do it. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I like seeing these videos. There really is good advice out there on the internet. You just have to know where to look, and you have to not allow yourself to just say, "Oh, this is great," without looking to the negatives of it, because it wasn't hard for me to find the other side of the argument for the MPI. But a lot of people don't even want to take those next steps. They just get hooked into this. So anyway, I hope that helps. Let us know if you have any questions, comments below. Like the video if you'd like to see more of these. And of course, we always love it when people subscribe. So, all right, take care.